All it would take to kill Voldemort is a good guy with a gun. Harry Potter makes zero sense when you think about it. The entire wizarding world lives in fear of Voldemort and his minions. Voldemort is effectively at war with the wizarding world, and by extension all the Muggles, neither of which seem to want to stop him all that bad. So that's what I intend to do. I will cover all the myriad of ways you can kill Voldemort relatively easily, instead of relying on a convoluted plan that involves having a kid become the chosen one, then killing him, then bringing him back to life, then having him fight Voldemort again, but this time Voldemort's spell rebels back at himself because the kid is actually the true owner of Voldemort's wand. So let's start with the first way to kill this no-nose loser. Use a gun. Despite how Voldemort looks, he is still fundamentally just a human. In fact, in the book, when he dies, he just slumps over, because he's just a guy, and he dies like a person who's just a guy. He does not have superpowers, he has no super perception, he has a normal amount of durability, he couldn't even speed blitz a 115-year-old man. My point is, Voldemort is human through and through, and can be taken out by normal human means. All it would take to stop Voldemort is a gun. You shoot him, that's it. For real, think about it. What's he gonna do? Cast the anti-bullet spell? Even if such a spell did exist, no person can react to a bullet like that. Even a Snake Man is not immune to the classic brap brap to in the head. And there are so many ways to deliver a bullet to its intended recipient. You could of course just shoot him up close, or maybe get a sniper that gives him even less opportunity to react. Or perhaps a mafia hit. Roll up in a car, roll down the window, and let him have it. Speaking of guns, where's the UK government? Where's NATO? The actual government of the UK knows about wizards. It's a whole plot point that the Minister of Magic and the Prime Minister meet up on occasion to discuss what's happening in their worlds. So if the Prime Minister of the UK knows about Voldemort and knows that he's a clear and present danger to the non-magical people of the UK, why didn't they do anything? Voldemort is already committing acts of terror and killing lots of people. He blew up a bridge. Once he takes over the Ministry of Magic, they just start killing people in the streets. They don't care. At what point does the UK military get involved? Or even better, at what point do they call NATO? It's almost certain that most nations know about magic. While not the general population, most world leaders probably interact with their magical counterpart. I imagine some governments on Earth are more of a melding of the magical and the non-magical government. Because having two parallel governments exist within the same borders and both claiming authority seems like a recipe for disaster. But Harry Potter's awful world building is a topic for another day. Anyway, if the non-magical government does not feel the need to interfere initially, they definitely will when the actual magical government falls. I could see the UK staying their hand. Maybe the Ministry of Magic assured them that they had Voldemort under control, or maybe the UK government just didn't want to get involved with wizards because that's not their area of expertise. Whatever the reason, they're going to be forced to get involved when the Ministry of Magic falls under the control of the magical Taliban. Now you have a rogue terrorist state within your borders that is planning to kill all of you, and they have magic. Of course you're going to get involved. Voldemort wants to kill all the Muggles. Eventually he will get to a point where he does something so damaging and so destructive that people have to get involved whether they want to or not. And because of that, the second he starts doing acts of terror, the UK government should just trigger Article 5. They should immediately start treating Voldemort as if he's an imminent threat and begin attacking on a war footing. Trigger Article 5, get other nations involved. If you're lucky, there's also a magical NATO, and Voldemort can feel the full force of the magic American military-industrial complex. Sure, a wizard might have the advantage in a one-on-one fight, but what are they going to do about air superiority? What's a broom going to do against a squadron of Harriers? They're just going to follow the NATO playbook, quickly establish air superiority, and then start bombing known Death Eater positions. Sure, some Death Eaters can teleport out, but the regular cannon fodder can't. With air superiority, you can also just start sending in ground troops. Wizards are shown to just be people. They have no supernatural stuff besides magic, so they're just as vulnerable to conventional weapons as anyone else. But that's just taking the loud route. Remember the whole good guys with a gun could solve the Harry Potter thing I mentioned at the start? Well, as it turns out, 1990s Britain has some of the best trained good guys with guns in the business. Who here has heard of Operation Nimrod? If you haven't, I recommend you go on Wikipedia or watch one of the dozens of well-produced documentaries on YouTube about it. Anyways, the basic info is this. In 1980, the Iranian embassy in London was taken over by some armed dudes. There were hostages, negotiations were failing, and after a few days, they started killing hostages. So, they sent in the SAS, and those bad boys cleaned house in 17 minutes, with only one additional hostage casualty. Everyone else made it out alive. It's what Ubisoft wishes Rainbow Six Siege was like. So just imagine, Voldemort and all his cronies are chilling in their weird hideout place. Suddenly, without warning, a flashbang comes through the window and goes off. Before anyone has time to react, bullets are flying and most of the Death Eaters are dead or incapacitated. Voldemort is either killed or captured and tried for crimes against humanity. The British government absorbs the now defunct Ministry of Magic, and the magical trained SAS is the most powerful fighting force in the world. Rule Britannia, the sun shall never set on the British Empire, yada yada yada. Either that, or the Americans can send an AC-130. Seriously, what can Voldemort do against an AC-130? But what if for some reason you don't want to use a gun, and you don't want to get Muggles involved? Well, there are still plenty of ways to get Voldemort. The biggest reason he's allowed to roam free is because wizards for some reason refuse to use real weapons against him. The Ministry of Magic is at war against what is essentially a terrorist organization, yet they refuse to use lethal magic. A Death Eater will show up to a fight ready to use the unblockable killing curse, while a Ministry Auror will just show up with Expelliarmus or some similar non-lethal spell. Your enemies brought Titanfall smart pistols, and you brought a taser. You're in a war. Military should be allowed to use lethal force. Obviously the killing curse should be outlawed for civilian use, but the military should be able to use it in combat. That's War 101. Quick sidebar, but do you think wizards in America have like a Second Amendment purists about the killing curse? Like, I will defend my house with the killing curse like the founding fathers intended. You're at war, so use the things that kill people. That highlights a broader issue I have with the Ministry of Magic. They treat Voldemort and his insurgency as a law enforcement issue and not a military one. The Death Eaters are clearly a terrorist organization who are also actively recruiting more members. They were actively killing people and attacking all over, and the best the Ministry could do was send out Aurors to deal with stuff. The main force countering the Death Eaters is the Order of the Phoenix, which is an even smaller rebellion fighting a rebellion. It's like the Star Wars sequel trilogy. The First Order is a rebellion against the New Republic, and then the Resistance is a rebellion rebelling against a rebellion. So it just feels like two gangs fighting. Why does the Ministry not have some form of standing army? Does the wizarding world never go to war? Are you telling me Wizard France and Wizard Britain never duked it out? The Ministry has no real army, while Voldemort is building a standing military. The Order of the Phoenix accomplishes much more than the Aurors, and there's only like 20 of them. Aurors don't even seem to be that competent of a fighting force, given that they often act alone. For some reason, the entire wizarding world seems to be bound to dueling. Everyone, from random students to Mr. Evil Voldemort himself, seem to only fight in one-on-one duels. Duels are all well and good if you are the strongest guy, but when you're fighting the strongest dark wizard in history, you can't just duel him one-on-one. He will win. Take a note from Jujutsu Kaisen. Jump him, get all the powerful people you have, and hit him with everyone at once. It does not have to be a fair fight in the slightest. He can only kill one person at a time with the killing curse. Have one person put up an anti-apparition field, and then everyone else just goes ham on him. Also, why did no one set up a trap for him? Voldemort wouldn't fight many people, but if someone was powerful and also big enough of a nuisance, he would go out of his way to go kill them. So get a guy who's powerful and a nuisance. Wait till Voldemort personally shows up, and then have 20 people all apparate in at once and cast whatever spells. 20 Expelliarmuses. 20 stupefies. Just reduce his brain to a goo. Who knows, maybe the brain damage will be permanent, so even when he revives from a Horcrux, he still can't do anything. Draw him into a fight and then blow up a giant bomb under their feet. Like, there are so many ways to get rid of him. Besides killing him directly, you can also get rid of him by weakening his ability to fight in a war. He has this massive army. Besides just fighting them, also remove his ability to recruit people. One of the biggest mistakes the Ministry of Magic made was not recognizing the plight of magical creatures. Voldemort was able to easily recruit werewolves and giants because they're mistreated by the wizarding community and don't have rights. Why would you be surprised when they join him? Their options are have no rights, or join the evil guy who kinda likes you. They could have avoided so many problems if after the First Wizarding War, they just started treating magical creatures well. The giants won't need to join Dr. Evil if you just give them human rights. Realistically though, this probably would never happen because the Ministry of Magic seems to be completely incompetent and unwilling to do anything. I mean, they elevated Cornelius Fudge for Pete's sake, and even the guy that came after him that was like an Auror and was supposed to be hard on Voldemort, he didn't really do anything besides try to get Harry Potter to like the Ministry of Magic, which is really weird that you're at a war and your main concern is, what if Harry Potter doesn't like us? They are more concerned with getting a child to like them than fighting an active war. With all that in mind, how do I think Harry Potter would realistically play out? It's quite simple. Basically the exact same until Voldemort is back. Once he's back and blowing up bridges, the real British government gets involved. There's no world where they don't get involved, especially once bridges start collapsing and mass casualty events happen. But you're not going to stop Voldemort because the wizards asked to keep their secrecy? They should have thought of that when they decided unilaterally that Muggles aren't worthy of getting magical healthcare. They live in a post-disease, almost post-scarcity world, and they are so dead set on remaining secret from the rest of the world that they won't help anyone. Imagine if wizards used their magic to stop a pandemic. What if they showed up during COVID or the Spanish flu and helped people? Instead, they were trying to be all secretive, and then when their wizard problems start harming muggles, they're like, no, don't get involved, this isn't for you. If the Ministry of Magic refuses to help, I think the British government is just gonna go rogue and start bombing Death Eater positions. Special forces should be able to easily dispatch them, and honestly, any amount of military might should be able to deal with Death Eaters because they're just a bunch of guys. The hardest part will be the fact that they're in hiding and are more of an insurgency, so there won't be many big one-on-one battles. But that's still something you can probably deal with. I'm also confused on why foreign Aurors never got involved. If Voldemort was such a big threat, why weren't American Aurors involved, or European Aurors, or anyone else? Is there no magical NATO? Are there no magical countries that are like, oh, Britain has fallen, we should probably get involved? They should have fresh memories of what happened when Grindelwald was around. The fact of the matter is this, if Voldemort destroys the Ministry of Magic, he becomes an immediate threat to non-magical Britain. And any attack against non-magical Britain is an attack against every NATO member. Voldemort doesn't die in some big dramatic battle, he probably gets hit by an airstrike. Of course, he has Horcruxes, but honestly, I don't see how those change things. He gets hit by a drone strike and dies, but comes back thanks to a Horcrux. From the Muggle perspective, they would assume they just missed him the first time around and drone strike him again. They don't need to know about the Horcruxes that beat him, they just need to keep killing him. And once they inevitably do learn about his ability to survive death, it doesn't really matter, the SAS and airstrikes are still gonna keep getting him. Unless he has an anti-bullet spell, he's just getting flashbanged then killed. His greatest strength is his ability to teleport at will, but that only works if he has warning. One sniper shot and he's out. Regardless of whether the Ministry of Magic falls to Voldemort or not, I imagine they're going to get taken over by the British government. After fighting a threat like Voldemort and with knowledge of previous ones like Grindelwald, there's no way they're going to allow a second parallel government to keep existing if that government keeps breeding super terrorists who are going to destroy the world. And there's that whole aspect that the magical world has all of this cool stuff that they won't let muggles use. They can cure basically any mundane disease, but they only save it for witches and wizards. They have magical devices, but they only let squibs use them. They're going to get absorbed into the British government, wizards are going to become common knowledge, and there's going to be a lot of restructuring of society. Man, I can't believe J.K. Rowling didn't think about the geopolitical implications of Voldemort while writing her children's books.